Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing my own beer. That's right, in this keg right here I have, well, an entire keg of homebrew. Well, more specifically, I now have probably half a keg of homebrew because, to be honest, I brewed this for Easter. Easter is now a few weeks ago, and it went down very well. But there's only a couple of us, and well, just the whole keg amongst sharing a few other interesting beers just wasn't necessary. As you can see by the slightly bad handwriting on the front, this is a peach Kveik. So separate those things out for a minute. This is basically just a kit Kveik Pale or IPA from Ghetto Brewed, which is where I get most of my homebrew equipment from. This is one of their experimental kits, which I think they've now rebranded. I bought 4 kits all in one go because they were reduced price, because I think they were changing them around a bit. But if you go on their site and just search for Kveik beer kit, you can find, as long as they sell it, it's basically the same thing. And sometimes they tell you what hops are in use, sometimes they don't, depending on the kit. I don't think they did with this one, so I can't tell you for sure, but I can tell you, before we take a look at it, some stats about it. So let me refer to my phone and load up the app that I use for tracking my brews, which is called Brew Tracker, conveniently. And I can tell you this much: this is the 11th thing I've brewed. I've simply called it Kveik Peach, and the Kveik type. There's 23 litres of it total. At least there was during fermentation. Obviously, you lose a little bit when transferring and that sort of thing. This is a 19-litre keg, so there was 19 litres of it in total. I started brewing this on the 28th of March this year. For reference, the date of recording is the 8th of May. 8th of May. It spent 5 days in the wort because it's Kveik, which we'll talk a bit more about in a minute. I bottled or kegged it on the 3rd of April, so yeah, it's again 5 days later, and it's now been aging for a grand total of 35 days. And the original gravity is 1.048, the final gravity 1.014, which gives it an ABV of about 4.5%. Because of the peach edition, I reckon it's stronger than my calculations worked out, and I reckon my OG was probably a bit off. But hey, we will. I was about to say we'll find out, but we won't ever find out without some more accurate method of reading it. And to be honest, well, it's just a bit of homebrew. It doesn't really matter. So what have I done to make this? Well, the Kveik part of it was that kit from Ghetto Brewed, but I wanted to do something a bit different. It wasn't a particularly difficult beer to brew, so I thought, well, you know what, let's spice it up, and I wasn't really sure where to go with it. So looking for a bit of inspiration, I contacted my good friend Bramall Backroom Brewery. I believe I got that right. I've said that 8 times now, I've got it wrong each time. And he suggested, well, peach goes with the nice natural orangey and slightly citrus flavours of the Kveik yeast, so why not try that? And I did. What he recommended was taking some fresh peaches, cutting them in halves, getting rid of the stones, taking the skins off, and baking them for half an hour or so to sanitize them, and then putting them in. However, well, for whatever reason, in late March in the UK, peaches just weren't available in any of the 2 local supermarkets that I went to, or even frozen ones. So I went for tinned peaches, which was a bit off-piste, but it worked very well. Basically, what I did in the large 23-litre vat was put 4 tins, I believe it was, of peaches in, strained peaches. The important thing when using tinned fruit, though, in homebrew is to check that there's no real additives that can damage the yeast in terms of preservatives, because sometimes the preservatives in tinned foods could kill off yeast, but there wasn't in these, thankfully, as we've now proven, because we have successful beer. Anyway, I put those in for the end of the mash for about half an hour, and then, well, I realised they were still pretty much whole, and I was worried there wouldn't be much flavour in them. So what I did was obviously sanitise this strainer and kind of mulched them through, so all the juices from the peach went in. And now, well, I can tell you it's pretty peachy. So what I want to do today is actually review my own beer in a critical way, as if, well, I was reviewing anyone else's. So I'm going to grab one of my favourite glasses, the Twisted Hops big goblet thing. I'll be honest, it's not the cleanest glass today. It's got a lot of water spots on it, so I do apologise, but I really want to use this one. So yeah, let's get pouring. Not the easiest thing to pour sat down, this tap, I've just realised, but we can always top it up. So, I mean, the first thing that stands out is the colour on that, and I'll be honest, the camera I don't think is doing it justice. Wait there. To help us out with this one, I've gone to grab a little torch. Now, if I do this, does that give you? I mean, other than me looking terrifying, can I turn this down at all? There we go. Does that give you a slightly better idea? It's a properly hazy orange. I mean, it almost looks a bit like putty, if we're honest. It's really, that's better. There you go. That is more accurate now to what it looks like in real life. It's got fantastic colour to it, which I suspect is mainly down to the peach edition, but I don't really know. So let's get into it. First off, obviously, in the glass, it's the most appealing beer I've ever made by far. It is hazy as you like, and actually this one, now we're getting into the second half of this keg, there's actually a bit of peach sediment in the bottom. So consider this, yeah, it's very fruit heavy, but unlike a lot of fruit heavy modern beers, this is not a sour. This is a proper, just straight up ale cut with some peach basically. So yeah, Aromas, hugely peach forward. I mean, you get that real rich fruity zing that what you get from tinned peaches. Have you ever had like tinned peaches and ice cream or cream, and it's got that real slightly sweet syrupy peach nose to it. It's very difficult to dig anything else out on the aroma, but one thing I will say for a lot of, certainly my homebrew, because I don't have a lot of temperature control and stuff like that, is that the aroma can be a bit off-putting compared to the actual taste of the beer. Sometimes you just get a bit of a, yeah, kind of a homebrew aroma. This doesn't have that. This could have come from anywhere, which is always just a great thing to be able to say. So let's get into the taste. Cheers. I mean, the first sip, there's always a lot going on. And this one, for whatever reason, tastes quite different to how it did not 2 days ago. Maybe that was just the first sip, but yeah, I think maybe there was just a little bit left in the tap that wasn't quite perfect. But hey, can't win all the time. What can we say about it though? Well, it's actually quite bitter. It's got real proper bitterness. There is a good amount of hop profile left in this. It's definitely, it's not an unhoppy beer, but it's not dominant. Because this kit is not an all grain kit, the malt profile is a little bit lacking, is what I'd say. But the peach kind of balances the hop off quite a bit, and I think with a bit of adaptation, this beer could actually be made into something that was very reminiscent of like a peach cobbler beer or something like that, peach crumble. It's yeah, with a few oats and a bit more malt profile, dial down the hops a little bit, and you could end with something that's properly deluxe. But that said, that'd be great for a cold day. It's getting warm now, so this really is hitting the mark. It's not perfect by any means, and what we're going to do is top the glass up, top to bottom taste test to figure out where I could have improved. So there we go, slightly better pour that time. So initially, notably really creamy, smooth head on it. That's one thing about this beer as well that I've not achieved in any of my others. If you drink a pint of this, there's a load of lacing left on the glass from the head. It just sticks around forever. It's creamy, it's decadent, it's pretty lush, to be honest. There's a tiny bit of bitterness and kind of fruit acidity on the front of the tongue. Some of it I think is from the peach, but also probably quite a bit from the hop profile as well. That second phase starts to clear out. I mean, I'm getting quite a lot of citric acidity from this that I wasn't getting before, but also that second phase, there's now a bit of a metallic twang. I don't know if that's because it's been stored in there and it was started a while back, or whether, I don't know, but I don't remember that from the first time round. remember when I first tried this, it was a little bit, well, you could just tell it was a little bit young. Maybe there was a few homebrewy esters still knocking about that weren't quite right, but that metallic note soon passes, to be honest, and then you're left with quite a rich, imagine peach and just, it's just a peach citrus blend. It's like a Robinson's fruit squash with not quite peach and barley, but you know, peach and orange, peach and lemon, that kind of character. And it's super smooth on the swallow, and then right at the end you do start to get a bit of malt profile coming through. And actually, a boozy Robinson's peach and barley is not a bad way to describe it. It has got a real flair of that sort of thing. Mouthfeel's pretty looks as well. It's not hugely carbonated. I could have done it a bit more, but well, I don't know. Sometimes when you're brewing something for a session beer, you don't want to overcarbonate it, and there's none visibly in the glass, but again, that head's not going anywhere, so it's clearly got something going on. And the thing that never really deteriorates here is the bitterness. You get a lot of beers where the first kind of taste or two, the bitterness just dies off, and then you're no longer acclimatized with it. This has a continual thing. It's properly, I don't know, it's properly beer bitter, if that makes sense. It's got the bitterness of a robust old school ale, but kind of the nicer, fruitier, floral bits from something a bit more modern. It's really a bit of an odd style. I don't know where, if you were to market this, you'd place it. But to be honest, I don't think anyone's going to, and I think I'm going to make quite a bit more of it. Honestly, I'm really enjoying it. So I did say we'd touch on Kveik and why it wasn't brewed for a very long time and that sort of thing. So Kveik, for those that don't know, is a Scandinavian-derived yeast, I believe, or certainly from that part of the world. And it has two major characteristics. One is it's not very temperature sensitive. You can brew it pretty cold, you can brew it pretty hot, and to be honest, it doesn't really care. It doesn't come up with an absolute abundance of dodgy esters as a result of that, like normal ale yeast would. And the second bit of it is that, well, it's pretty violent. And what I mean by that is this stuff just explodes. If I can find the picture, I'll put it on screen now, but I had a bit of a, well, yeah, an explosion mid-brew. Nothing went wrong, it just bunged up the airlock and that sort of thing. But as a result of that, it will just chomp through anything it can incredibly fast, which means you can brew in absolutely no time at all. I know if you've got a kind of sealed system, I have a friend of mine's actually gone from grain to glass in less than 48 hours before, which, well, is just damn impressive, let's be honest. So yeah, using Kveik yeast, forced carbonation, that sort of stuff, it is possible. I'm not sure whether you'd want to, but it can be done. So yeah, that's me reviewing a beer that I've brewed for the first time, really. I mean, I've talked about some others that I've done on live streams and stuff like that, but this is the first dedicated video to this. If anyone wants a full recipe, let me know. I'll break it down for you. I'll put it in the comments, or maybe I'll brew it again and talk you through it. But yeah, it's a bit of a hybrid, and whilst it wasn't my intention, every time I've tried heavily fruited beer, Vault City, the obvious culprits for this, but there's a few people doing it, where you've had that and gone, I'm really enjoying this super lux heavy fruit edition, but I feel like I'm missing the beer. Well, this has kind of got it nearly on a par. There could be more fruit in here, for sure, but there could also be more of that beer body and a bit more malt in there as well. So I am going to do this again, but I think we'll start to tweak the recipe, make it our own, maybe not a kit next time, and try and produce something. Yeah, Crummy's Special Peach Beer. That's a terrible name. Ideas for names in the comments below, please. And that really is all I have to say about it. So as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already subscribed, if you would be so kind, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.